Hey, what's up, guys? Sorry I didn't post a regular review for this, but I was on vacation. Ugh. Yeah, guess I got sunburned. Well, so I was on vacation, but regardless, today I'm going to be giving you my spoiler review for X-Men Dark Phoenix. That's alright. If you guys haven't seen it yet, stop right here. I'm just going to get right into it. X-Men Dark Phoenix is the fourth film in this rebooted X-Men franchise after First Class, Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, and now we have X-Men Dark Phoenix. A lot of the characters from the previous film do return in this one. This film takes place in the early 90s. The X-Men in this, I really actually liked in the beginning portion because they were finally looked at as people that just regular average Joes like me or anyone else could rely on. They could put their faith in. The government can even put their faith in the X-Men. So after the space shuttle Endeavor sends out a distress signal, who do they call upon? The X-Men. So Mystique, Quicksilver, Nightcrawler, Cyclops, and all the rest of the characters go up into space with Jean Grey. And this, I'll say, is probably one of my favorite scenes in the entire film. So while we're up in space, not Jennifer Lawrence being the leader and in charge of this mission, which is completely stupid, but the fact that all of these X-Men are working together as a team to save the people on the Endeavor. You have Storm using her abilities to seal off all the air leakages on the ship. You have Quicksilver getting teleported in by Nightcrawler to run around and save all these guys super quick and get them off the ship that's about to burst. We saw a decent amount of this in First Class, but I love seeing all of the X-Men play off of one another. It's really great to just see them all focused and working together to accomplish something. At this point, all of the people that were on the Endeavor are safe. Jean Grey, unfortunately, is stranded out in space. So what happens is she's hit by all of this dark matter and it completely gets absorbed inside of her. Poof! And according to the X-Men, it looks like she disappeared. She's nowhere to be found, so they all think she's dead. So they're in mourning. All this dark matter is flowing around inside of Jean Grey's body, and she's become this dark, evil force that's really temperamental, and the slightest little thing can set her off. So she's dangerous. So fast forward a little bit, while they're all back on Earth, Jean Grey finds out that her dad is actually still alive. She gets this mental image in her head that her dad is still alive. So she's drawn to him, so she goes to see him. She gets really emotional at her dad's house. Things get completely out of hand. The house basically blows up. And in come the rest of the X-Men to kind of calm her down. In comes Jennifer Lawrence, Evan Peters, and the rest of the X-Men. And what happens? Mystique dies, which I'm kind of happy about, to be honest. After Days of Future Past and First Class, Mystique was just stupid. They were portraying her as this goody two-shoes character, and they were showing her with less makeup all the time because I guess Jennifer Lawrence thinks she's too big for that. That's just my opinion, but I was just sick and tired of her Mystique character from Apocalypse and this one, so I'm kind of glad she died. Quicksilver goes to stop Jean Grey. Jean Grey grabs him and tosses him to the ground when he's like 15 feet up. And he's taken out for the entire freaking movie. Like Quicksilver, one of the most iconic characters who had the best scenes from the second and third films, Apocalypse and Days of Future Past, completely wasted in this movie. Jessica Chastain as the villain was alright. I mean, it didn't really do much for me. Out of Days of Future Past, First Class, and Apocalypse, she was the weakest. The villain is basically this alien horde, and each specific alien can take over a human's body. So, I mean, there's nothing really distinct about it. These aliens are just trying to siphon that energy out of Jean Grey and use it for destructive purposes. Jean Grey finds out that Professor Xavier knew all along that her dad was alive, even though it was shown that Professor X said the dad died in the car accident when Jean Grey was a little kid. But what really happened is Charles Xavier blocked out that memory in Jean Grey's mind. So a lot of people are really hating on that aspect of Xavier, but I actually kind of like that because we see Charles Xavier in the first X-Men movie. Obviously there's new continuity now, so that was wiped clean, but regardless, we see him in the late 90s as this really smart man. There's a lot for him that he knows, and he just seems overall wise. But this is still an earlier iteration of Charles Xavier. He's not a perfect man, so he would have made some choices in the 80s when Jean Grey was a little kid that might not be perfect in today's society. He himself didn't think he did anything wrong at first. But after arguing for a while with Hank McCoy, he finally, towards the end of the film, comes to the realization that, shit, I did something really messed up, and now I'm paying for it. I still liked what they did with that, though, because these are mutants. They're not immortal. They're not perfect. They're still humans with a genetic mutation, so they still have problems just like we do. We don't make the right choices all the time. We're not perfect. We just want what's best for everyone. So the characters that stood out in this film, Sophie Turner was really great as the Dark Phoenix. I wish she got more time because there was obviously stuff cut from this film. James McAvoy's Professor X was good as always. I would say the OG characters got the best character arcs in this film, minus Mystique and Magneto, because they were completely pointless characters in this movie and really wasted. Magneto, just like X-Men Apocalypse, we find him in both films completely secluded away from everyone else. In this movie, Jean Grey goes to find him for answers about what happened. But later on, Magneto decides that, you know what? I can see how evil Jean Grey is now. She's the Dark Phoenix. So I'm going to use my powers one last time to help the X-Men take him down. That's exactly what happened in X-Men Apocalypse with that villain. All the other characters like Cyclops, Nightcrawler, and a few others had a few moments here and there to shine, but they didn't really stand out. They were just background characters like the other films. And honestly, after all of these freaking X-Men movies, I was someone who really supported the X-Men franchise. I wasn't too much of a fan of Origins Wolverine or 3 The Last Stand. Apocalypse was meh, but I still liked all these movies. But after this, I'm happy they're rebooting this franchise. Fast forward to the end of the movie. Jean Grey sacrifices herself, dies. The villain in the film dies. And so that it didn't really feel too eventful to me because Sophie Turner has only played Jean Grey in this movie and the last one, so I'm not like attached to her character. It's not like a specific character in the MCU, if you haven't seen Avengers Endgame, dying. Like that almost made everyone cry. Like something like that where they built up this character for so many movies. Then you feel the emotion when that character is taken away from us. But not this. And so at the end of the film, you have Professor Xavier so broken by that choice he made about Jean Grey now. He retires and he instates Hank McCoy, Beast, as the new dean of the school. They rename it the Jean Grey School for Gifted Youngsters. And the movie, get this, the movie ends with a pan up of the sky showing a cool landscape shot and then a phoenix flying through the sky. That's just the ending to X-Men 2. They did a sky shot of that at the end with the lake, and they teased the phoenix at the end of that. Like, come on, guys. It's so unoriginal now. No mid-credit scene, no post-credit scene, no nothing. So my take on this film. I really loved the first third of this film. It was really neat to see the X-Men working together and playing off one another. Each one had their specific role in this mission, which was cool to see. They're all important. Then the second 2/3, honestly, got really sloppy. And in my opinion, this is just my opinion. I'm not saying this is true or what, but when this movie started production, we didn't really hear anything about a Disney-Fox deal or anything like that. Halfway through production, though, that's when the deal was starting to be made. That's when talks were going around left and right. Disney's going to buy out Fox. Fox is going to lose all the rights to the X-Men and Fantastic Four. So whatever. Simon Kimber probably went on filming this movie with everyone. But 2/3 of the way through filming, they found out that Disney was getting closer to buying the rights to Fox. So I think what happened is they probably rushed a lot of things. They probably just said, screw it. It doesn't matter if we do any of this. It doesn't matter. We don't want to set up anything. We don't want to kind of make a big epic ending, a huge finale, because we don't know if this is going to be the last film. If Disney succeeds, then we had an uneventful last movie, which they did. As far as an extended cut, I would really like to see that, because I know there's talks about that's floating around somewhere or will be released later on down the line. I would like to see that, because definitely there's a lot of scenes that felt like they got cut. Certain angles and shots just felt like they were missing. It was weirdly edited and sometimes the pacing was off. I went to see this Thursday, opening night when I was in Canada, and they were giving out these free X-Men Dark Phoenix keychains, and the girl asked me, how many do I want? Like, it was just me in the theater. She said, how many do I want? I was like, Shit, that means no one is seeing this movie. They have so many extra to give out because I saw it at 10 p.m. It was the end of the night. So they're trying to get rid of all of them. Lo and behold, I walk into the theater opening night for an X-Men movie, and there's like 15 to 20 people in this gigantic theater. The budget is almost $200 million. This movie is not going to be a success in the box office. And again, I think the main reason is because people were so spoiled with Avengers Endgame that just came out, and not to mention the fact that people know that this is the end of the franchise. Like, why bother? They should have just ended it with X-Men Days of Future Past being the last X-Men film and Logan being the last Wolverine movie. That would have been a great send-off for the entire Fox universe. As far as my final thoughts, this movie, it wasn't the worst X-Men film out there, regardless, even though they kind of pieced it together towards the end and it does feel like an incomplete film. There's still things to like about this movie. So there's a crazy scene at the end with Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler's just on this train wasting dudes left and right, and it's really brutal, and it almost reminded me of that scene from X2 when he just messes up everyone in the White House. And one other problem I had with this is they didn't introduce any new X-Men. There was some weird dude that had like dreadlocks that he can control, and like one other girl, but they were like background characters. They didn't say their name or anything like that. They were just in the background, so they didn't really introduce any new characters or have any crazy new abilities that we've never seen before. It's an okay film, it's decent, but not a way to end this X-Men franchise. 5 out of 10, guys. Guys, I have a lot of stuff coming up soon on here. Be sure to keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, I recently did a collaboration with Culture Heroes YouTube channel. Check them out, give them a like, and subscribe. Thanks, guys.